can call this meeting to order. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and our young champions from the novices. Great to have you out this evening. We are going to be following two agendas this afternoon. We're going to be following the Committee of the Whole agenda, and that will be followed by our council meeting. We're going to start off with a prayer by Councillor B. Kenny, and that will be followed by the national anthem by Mr. Joe Longfellow. Councillor Kenny.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for thy blessings. Almighty God, you have given us this good land as our heritage. May we prove ourselves as people mindful of your generosity and glad to do your will. Enrich our citizens with your heavenly grace and prosper them with happiness. Help this council and staff to make wise decisions for the benefit of all in our community. This we ask in your precious name. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Well done, Joel, as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My pleasure as always.
Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Thank you. Members of Council, I need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Doucette. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of interest this evening? With none, we'll move on to items requiring a separate discussion. Members, Councillor Kenny.
Your Worship, number 3 and number 5.
Further items? With none further, I'll take a motion to approve the remainder of the items, please. Councillor Danch. Councillor Steele. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. I'm now going to move on to the podium for the presentations for this evening. Believe it or not, guys, this is the best part of the whole night. This is the part I enjoy doing, is recognizing the talent that we have here in the city of Port Colborne. And what I'm going to do with you guys took the whole front row up. That's great. I'm going to have you guys come on up here, right to the front here, and stand up here. Okay? There you go. They even look like champions, don't they? It's my pleasure this evening, members of council and those in the gallery, as well as those watching on COGECO, to take this opportunity on behalf of members of council, but most importantly, on behalf of each and every citizen of the city of Port Colborne. This year, it's been a long road for these youngsters, a long road to the OMHA finals for the Port Colborne Golden Puck Novice Sailors hockey team, these little guys that you see lined up here in front of their chamber. After an impressive, and I say impressive, nobody in City Hall can believe this today, guys, an impressive 28-0 record in the local season in tournament play that saw them win the Caledonia A Challenge Cup, the Paris Rob Johnson Memorial Tournament, the Port Colborne Golden Puck Tournament, and being a finalist in the Pelham A Regional Silver Stick Tournament. They then went on to play the Paris team in the quarterfinals, winning in 3 straight games. Their next competitor, was Elmer. And they were also defeated in 3 straight games. The final competitor, Lambeth, were also defeated once again in 3 games. Which then brought the Ontario Minor Hockey Association Championship and the Joyce Junker Trophy here to the city of Port Colborne. Well done, guys. Great job. Great job. On behalf, guys, of the people behind you, members of City Council, who are most of them are here. The other ones are absent tonight. They're tardy. But on behalf of them, but more importantly, guys, on behalf of the entire community, everyone that's on the other side of that camera right now, watching you guys on TV, throughout the entire city, throughout the entire city of Port Colborne, guys, we congratulate you. The entire community congratulates you. And may I say, the hard work that you've put forward have really, really made us as a community, as a city, proud. You guys wore that jersey. You wore that city on your shoulders. You represented the city of Port Colborne very well. And each and every resident in this community is extremely, extremely proud of you. You guys played with a lot of determination, didn't you? A lot of heart, right? That's right. I bet your coaches tell you that every game, right? It's all about this, right? Well, you guys did all right. You guys did. Can I butt in, guys? You guys, yeah. No, you guys did great. You guys worked hard. And I'd like to now as well call up a gentleman that looks after you guys on a daily basis as well, besides your coaches, and that's the president of your association, Mr. Bill Steele. Bill, if you want to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Vance. I appreciate the opportunity to come up and speak. This is another great year for Port Colborne Minor Hockey Sailors. Last year we had our Bantam Bank of Nova Scotia team win it all, first time since 1957. And you guys this year followed up with an encore of that championship. So I think it bodes well for the coaches in our association, our parents, our fans, all our sponsors, and the board of directors, not only that sits today, but those from the days of the Lions Club to Gravelly Bay Minor Sports to the new way of having an elected board, how everybody's put the building blocks in order for Port Colborne to come back and have some championship teams. And it does bode well. We really try to pick the best coaches and volunteers we can, because they are volunteers. Nobody's paid in our association, as Coach Coors and his staff know. I think their payment is obviously why we're here today with the nice championship medals hanging around the necks of our young novices. So, this team was there 3 years in a row. They almost touched the golden ring twice, but the third chance, third time's a charm, they say. They grasped it, they held it, and they brought it home. So congratulations. And parents, thank you guys. You guys were fantastic during the whole series, during the whole year. I mean, these guys had a great run. I got a great nephew that plays on this team, my niece's son, so it's kind of neat having it in the family there. So guys, congratulations, and let's see what happens again next year. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I got the first presentation for you. Okay, I'm going to call you guys up here for certificates, but I have something for you before I give you your certificates, and that is a plaque. And this plaque is presented to you guys. The Port Colborne Golden Puck Novice Sailors, the Ontario Minor Hockey Association Novice B Champions, winner of the Joyce Junker Trophy. Congratulations on behalf of members of City Council, but more importantly, congratulations on behalf of your neighbors, your family, your friends, your community, the city of Port Colborne. Your dedication and your commitment that you guys exhibited all year round, all year, 28-0. That is fantastic, guys. You have inspired this entire community with the work that you guys have done. With those medals that you carry around your neck, you've inspired and you made a whole community proud. So with that, I present this plaque to you guys. Now, I have a certificate for each and every one of you guys, okay? So what I want you to do is I'm going to call your name out. You guys can come and get the certificate. Then you can walk right around back over there and stand right back where you came from, okay? Okay, so for the first name, I have Ben Bronzovich. Pronounce it right? Did I pronounce it right? Brozovic, gotcha. Now I get corrected all the time. Give me a break, guys. I'm going to read the first one out to you guys. In recognition of your outstanding contribution to the Port Colborne Golden Puck Novice Sailors and your achievement as the OMHA Novice B Champions, winners of the Joyce Junker Trophy, may I extend congratulations on behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of the City of Port Colborne. Your dedication and commitment to your team reinforces the value of teamwork evident throughout our community. Win today, walk together forever. Now, do you guys know what that means? You know what that means? Win today, walk together forever. What that means is you guys have won a championship today. And for many, many years, from today on until you're our age, even beyond that, you guys are going to walk together forever. You're going to be best of friends, and you're going to talk about this year for the rest of your lives. And you're going to have that medal to prove and to look back on, because win today, as a team, you walk together forever, as a team, as friends, and as part of this community. So well done, guys. There you go. Ryan Carthew. Good job, buddy. Great job. There you go. Dylan Kors. Congratulations, Dylan. Great job. Great job. Troy Van Gool. Good job, Troy. Congratulations, Phil. There you go. Harrison Langerak. Good job, Harrison. Congratulations. Well done. Jacob LeBlanc. Good job, Phil. Congratulations.
Twin number 1.
Andrew LeBlanc. Where's the other twin? Congratulations, Andrew. Great job. Owen Codwell. Good job, buddy. Congratulations. Matthew Martell. Good job, Matthew. Congratulations. David Pinelli. Good job, David. Congratulations. Ashton Murdoch. Good job, Bill. Congratulations. Ethan Torkas. Isaac DeWard. Sawyer. Okay. You guys are waiting for this one, aren't you? Procopet. How do you say that? Procopets. Got it. Sawyer Procopets. Wasn't there another Procopets that I had in this chamber a couple years ago that I had trouble with that? Do you have a sister or a brother? Two sisters. I think I had one of the sisters here a few years ago, but I think I got it that time. I didn't? No, no, I didn't. And I think you told me before the meeting, too. Dylan Graham. Now your coaching staff. I'm going to call up the coach, head coach, Sean Kors. Kevin Landrak. Where's Kevin? There he is. Dave Codwell. Attila Nagy. And Dr. Rob Beasley. Not here? This is not here?
No, he's not here.
Okay, guys, now it's your turn, okay? What I want you to do is come on up here, and line up here. We're going to get a picture of you guys. Maybe wants to get a picture of you guys. But something that's very important, okay, very important, is to say thank you, right? So what I want you guys to do is look at all the parents up there, and first off, thank your parents for everything that we did. The second, that is the second thank you, but thank you coaches too, guys.
Thank you, amazing coaches.
I also want you guys to look into that camera right there, because there's a lot of sponsors out there all year long, and a lot of people support you guys. So I want you to look in that camera and thank the entire community. Yeah, I want you guys to come on up here for a picture. John, where's he? Tila? Dave?
I've seen Barn and Colborne with their flying.
Feel free to sign. We're going to get a little squeezy here. We're going to get rid of that plaque, okay? Squeeze a little bit, some of you guys. Straighten it out here. Move up a little bit. Dave, move up, guys. Dave, move up a little bit. There we go. Good. You smile like that. Show some teeth white so that one.
Pull your sheets down. Don't hide your face. Pull them down a little bit. That's it.
Parents, if any parents want to come on up, feel free.
Hold your warts down. Hold them down a little bit so you don't hide your face.
Okay, we're not waiting for you. Okay, gang, before you guys take off, there's just a few more words with some other folks that wore some jerseys this year, too, some Sailor jerseys. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize two other hockey teams from the city of Port Colborne this past season. The first is our Port Colborne Scotiabank Bantam Sailor team, who again also fought their way to the finals in the Ontario Minor Hockey Association. So not only did we have one team in the finals, we actually had two teams in the finals. And actually, last year you guys were in the finals and they won it, and this year they were in the finals and you guys won it. So great job to both teams for being there and representing the city of Port Colborne. It was a very impressive year for minor hockey here in the city of Port Colborne. The Bantam team had fought hard against Listowel, but Listowel came on strong in the end, taking the championship from our team. They did, however, come away with the W.A. Hewitt Trophy. So our congratulations also goes out to our Bantam hockey team, the coaching staff and the parents and those folks that were part of that organization. But as well, I do want to take this opportunity to extend our appreciation and congratulations to the Port Colborne Pirates, our junior B hockey team, who this year had an impressive year in the regular season, making it to third place, and as well to the playoffs and the finals within the playoffs against the St. Catharines Falcons. Their series, as you know, went to 6 games. It was hard fought before the Falcons took the title from the Pirates. And again, to all the players and the coaches and the personnel from the Pirates organization, we want to extend a great, warm congratulations to them, but as well to the fans that came out. If any of you guys were at some of the last games, and even your games, all the fans that came out and filled that arena was very heartening to see the community behind our hockey organizations. But I have to say to the parents and to the organization, Bill, to you and your team as part of the organization, you know, Port Colborne, and I said this to the media yesterday when they contacted me about hockey in Port Colborne and sport in general in Port Colborne. We are a hockey town. I think it goes back to the 30s and 40s with the Sailors, and you guys are still wearing that name on your jerseys. And representing the city of Port Colborne is what you guys do well. And with that, we got some pretty impressive talent, some pretty impressive awards that this talent has brought home, like the championship. But guys, it just wouldn't happen if it wasn't for your moms and dads, if it wasn't for the many sponsors out there that support minor sports in Port Colborne, and of course the volunteers that come out on a daily basis like Bill and his team with the organizations. So to all of you folks that are behind there, behind the gallery, the coaches, Kevin and Sean and Dave and Dr. Bisley and of course Attila, you know, you guys spend a lot of time with these guys. So thank you to all you folks. And a great big thank you goes to the organization, to all those that support these guys, so that you guys are able to come back with these medallions and medals around your neck to represent our city very well. So good on you. Great job, guys. Congratulations. And to all you folks, thank you for what you're giving these guys in terms of enabling them to grow up with that character and that Port Colborne spirit. I thank you for that. You guys want to hang around? All right. You guys want to take a seat up here? I'm just kidding. Someday. Take care, Ray. You're welcome. Thank you. Folks, we're also here tonight to recognize some other folks that take great pride in their community, and that is the 2012 Winter Photo Contest winner. Being fortunate to have a lot of destinations throughout the community, we have a lot of people that take their time to go out and shoot some great photographs of the community. And this past winter, we asked, as you know, we asked residents throughout the city of Port Colborne to participate in our It's a Winter Wonderland in Port Colborne photography contest and competition. And while we didn't have a lot of snow to feature in a lot of these photographs, there was a lot of ice along our shoreline and beautiful sunsets, which this individual took full advantage of. This year's winner is Morgan Whalen. Is Morgan here? There she is. Come on up, Morgan. Morgan captured an absolute beautiful scene in her photograph, and this is entitled The Harbor Sunset. And if COGECO can get a nice shot of this, you got to see it. It's just a beautiful picture. You can see that. So it's my pleasure on behalf of council and the community to present to you, Morgan, a certificate. And it reads, in recognition of your achievement as winner of the It's a Winter Wonderland in Port Colborne photography competition, on behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of the City of Port Colborne, thank you for helping to celebrate the spirit of the winter season here in our community. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
As well, this is a really cool part.
I know.
As well, Morgan does receive from At 27, the home of probably Niagara's best steak dinner, believe me. It's just, want a good steak, go to At 27. But we have here a $100 gift certificate on behalf of Mike and Linda and the whole crew over there to come out and enjoy a great meal at 27 restaurant.
Excellent. Thank you.
So now it's time for you for your 10-minute speech. So you can step up here and it's all yours.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you,
very
Morgan.
much.
Okay, members, with that, we'll move on to our delegations. We have one delegation this evening. We have Maria Laricia. Did I get it?
You got it.
One for three. I also have President Dave Codwell, as well as Vice President Barb Fontaine. I'm sorry, we have President Maria. We have, Dave, you're the Vice President this year. You got, okay, I just managed that one. And Barb Fontaine. Barb's the treasurer of the Sir John Colborne Youth Soccer Club, and they are here to request for funding for a golf cart due to the construction of the Valley Health and Wellness Center. So Maria, the floor is yours. If you just want to press the gray button there, you're good to go.
Perfect. All right. My name is Maria Laricia, and I'm the president of Sir John Colborne Youth Soccer Club here in Port Colborne. And with me, I have Vice President Dave Caldwell and Treasurer Barb Fontaine. Last year, our soccer club registered over 500 children from ages 3 to 16. We're the largest sports activity for young children here in Port Colborne, consisting of house league teams and travel teams that represent Port Colborne all around the Niagara area and the United States. At this time last year, we asked for your support in providing us with a people mover transportation service to transport our elderly spectators and our spectators that need assistance in getting over to our main fields due to the construction of the new Health and Wellness Center. The construction of the new Health and Wellness Center has limited our parking in our parking lot, which has parents, grandparents, and spectators parking twice the distance away from our main fields, which makes it very difficult for the elderly and disabled who wish to come out and watch the children. In addition, our roundabout drop-off area at the soccer clubhouse to the soccer fields is no longer accessible to them right now. Providing us with this service last season gave us a lot of positive feedback from the parents and especially the grandparents and of the children. Also, personally, knowing a few specific individuals who are disabled expressed that without this service, they would not be able to come out and watch their own children play. So once again, for another season, we are asking for your support in providing our club with the People Mover transportation service for the elderly and disabled from the end of May to the end of August.
Thank you, Maria. Oh, you guys are just here for moral support?
Yeah, if you had any questions, if you
I
had
was
any
waiting for somebody else to
questions,
jump in.
yeah, Barb's got the financials of it, if you had any questions, and
Okay,
Dave's
thanks,
just
Maria.
right here.
Members of council, any questions or comments of the presenters? Councilor Steele?
Thank you, Your Worship. If we can refer the letter to Ron Hansen, I'll certainly work again with Ron. Ron and I last year were able to secure the funding through MJM Architects, who are the architects for our new community center, and MHPM, who are the project managers for the center. We'll certainly work on this, and I think we can do again this year what we were able to do last year. So council will allow us just to pass along the run, and I'll work on that.
Wonderful, thank you, Councillor Steele.
Thank you.
Do we have a seconder to that referral, please? Councillor Kenny, any questions or comments? Any further questions or comments to the presenters?
Need additional funding.
Any clarification, guys? We're good?
Yeah, so just one clarification. So last year, just so you know the financials, so I can share that with you. So last year, you funded about just under $3,200, and that covered the months of July and August, because we had a little later start before we got it all through council. So we'd be asking for funding for the month of June also this
June
time.
also,
So it would
okay.
bring it up to about $4,300.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Okay, great, thanks, guys. So we'll be in contact with them? Ron?
Yeah, Ron.
Ron will be in contact with them? Good. Thanks, guys. Pardon me? Yeah. Any further questions on that? Of staff? Comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. No, no problem. We'll now move on to the Regional Council's report. Councillor Barrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick update. Regional Council had a meeting about 2 weeks ago to prepare for Niagara Week. As many already know, Niagara Week is a time when regional councilors go to Queen's Park with, quite frankly, a list of asks, and to put Niagara back on the agenda for Queen's Park. I think it's fair to say that Niagara hasn't gotten its fair share over the years with this government, and it's important to be there, I think, on an annual basis, meeting with cabinet ministers and senior staff to ensure that our message is heard. We are entering our 8th year. It is a firm and well-established precedence that has occurred. I have a list in front of me of some of the recommended asks. I'm not going to go through them all, though, because it does get into some detail. With that said, I do believe, and many that were there that evening, including yourself, Mr. Mayor, noted that job creation should be the #1 item for Queen's Park in Niagara. Certainly, we're doing what we can, both locally here in Port Colborne and as well as the region on the economic development agenda. And we would like to see that kind of participation with the province as well. The other items we discussed was infrastructure and healthcare. So needless to say, we are working on preparing an excellent messaging and communication package for Niagara Week at Queen's Park. Also, we are discussing Niagara's regional transportation strategy. It was originally completed in 2002 and contains 8 strategic directions, 12 strategic initiatives related to overall improvement of the transportation network in Niagara. This includes bike and transit network, rail and ports, highway and traffic flow, economic gateway zone and gateway employment lands, which, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you're more than familiar with. Essentially, we're talking about having strategic initiatives to ultimately ensure that our budget is in alignment with what we want, so that we're not pouring money into capital projects that aren't necessarily a priority within an overall Niagara Regional Transportation Plan. There is an open house for comment from the public as well on April 23rd. And that's my report for this evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. Members of Council, any questions or comments to the Regional Councillor? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship, to the regional councillor. So when you ask about job creation for the Niagara region, did you get any feedback about how that was going to happen, or how we were going to, as any community in the Niagara region, going to do that?
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Councillor, if you can clarify the question a little bit more. So what I was speaking to was our meeting as a council to discuss our direction
Okay.
going to Queen's Park.
And in regards to job creation, what was that direction?
Well, in meeting with several ministers, we are going to have several messages, but we want them linked to key themes such as job creation, infrastructure, and healthcare. So, like I said, I have a sort of a list of asks. I think it's important, instead of rather being all over the map with various people, to go in with a handful of strong messages, one of them being job creation. So ultimately, a lot's going to depend on providing dollars or relating to infrastructure improvements for Niagara, seeing what we can do to pass types of available incentives. That speaks to the Gateway Economic Zone Center as well. So, yeah, we are on it, that's for sure.
Any further questions or comments, members? With that, thank you, Councillor Barrick. Just to add to Councillor Barrick's comments on job creation, Councillor Kenny, as you know, I do chair the Gateway Economic Center and Zone Committee with respect to putting forward an economic strategy for the region of Niagara. And just to directly get to your question and with some answers with respect to some of the I'll use the word efforts that we're providing at the regional level. And as you know, as government, we can't just wave a magic wand and say jobs are created. As government, we have to attempt to make the environment, the business environment, as comfortable and confident for the business community as we can. And as you know, we're limited in terms of what we can, in fact, do with respect to our abilities and what we're allowed under the Municipal Act, not bonusing and things of that nature, in comparison to our neighbors to the south in the States. As Councillor Barrick rightly pointed to, it's the Gateway strategy that we're hoping is going to create that environment. How, you ask, is through packaging incentives. The Gateway has led the process of the South Niagara East-West Arterial Corridor that will adjoin our over 2,000 acres of land, employment lands. It'll bring that together, as well as with the 406 being there. Our multimodal infrastructure, our ports, our rail, our road, the CIPs that we have within the commercial retail areas, as well as the CIP that we have within the Gateway area that'll offer incentives to the industrial community. And the list goes on. I'm not going to go on and on about it, but I think you're fully aware of what we're trying to do with the Gateway. As well, with the foreign trade zone that we're trying to put in place, working with the federal government, not just the provincial government, but also the federal government, to try and focus on the creation of jobs, once again, by making it easier for people to set up their businesses here in Niagara with further incentives as it relates to a foreign trade zone as well. Very comparable, once again, to the States, because over there they're offering a lot of different incentive packages that unfortunately we don't have the ability to do here. We're trying to get that ability by working with the feds and the province. Okay? With nothing further, we'll now move on to Councillors' items. Members of Council, I have Councillor Steele. Good. Councillor Danch. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. With respect to the finalization of the lease agreement with Canadian Niagara Power, we've been asked by Canadian Niagara Power to assure them that Port Colborne Hydro Inc. will remain in existence for at least 2 years after closing to ensure all the provisions of the agreements have been finalized. They also want to know that the corporation of the City of Port Colborne, as the shareholder, will cooperate and cause Port Colborne Hydro Inc. to comply with the provisions of the final agreements for at least 2 years. As one of the council representatives on the Port Colborne Hydro Inc., I can say that the board has never given any indication that it plans to dissolve itself. On the contrary, we'll be looking for new avenues to expand and look for new ways of having income to Port Colborne Hydro Inc., which can be passed along to the City of Port Colborne. Your Worship, this evening I have a motion that has been drafted by our lawyers. If I could put that forward, I need to ask for leave.
Thank you. A seconder for leave, please. Councillor Danch. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that reference is made to 1, Section 6 of the General Conveyance Assignment and Assumption Agreement dated as of the date hereof, Conveyance Agreement, between Port Colborne Hydro Inc., PCHI, and CNPI. 2, Section 3 of the Bill of Sale dated as of the date hereof, the Bill of Sale, between PCHI and CNPI. And 3, Subsection 16.1D of the Lease Agreement dated as of July 19th, 2001, the lease agreement between PCHI, the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne, as shareholder of PCHI, CCPC, and CNPI, and Canadian Niagara Power Company Limited, as CNPI's guarantor. Capitalized terms used and not defined herein have the meanings ascribed to them in the lease agreement. In consideration of payment by CNPI of Canadian $6.9 million to PCHI on the date hereof, and CNPI entering into the conveyance of agreement, in the bill of sale, CCPC hereby agrees, undertakes, and covenants as follows. A, CCPC shall maintain PCHI's existence for a period of at least 2 years, the date hereof. B, CCPC shall cause PCHI to comply with the provisions of and cooperate in giving effect to the general conveyance, the bill of sale, all other agreements entered into between PCHI and CNPI, and all other documents created and or executed by PCHI and or CNPI in connection with the sale, grant, transfer, assignment, conveyance, and delivery of the leased assets to CNPI. And C, CCPC shall cooperate in, do, make, execute, or deliver, or cause to be done, made, executed, or delivered, all such further acts, documents, and or things as CNPI may require within a period of 2 years from the date hereof, for the purpose of giving effect to the sale, grant, transfer, assignment, conveyance, and delivery of the leased assets to CNPI.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Kenny? Any questions or comments to that? Go ahead, Mr. Howe.
Your Worship, just a quick note about the time, and I know that there's always concern about notice. This is a formality, but it closes this week, and they've asked if we could expedite this, so we brought it to council not for any purpose other than to expedite. This motion will be on the public domain. Clerk will add it to the website so everybody can see it. And all it is just a guarantee to CNPI that the city itself will maintain and keep Port Colborne Hydro incorporated as an entity, a company, over the next 2 years, so that Port Colborne Hydro Inc. can clean up any loose ends on the transfer should we come across one. We think everything's covered, but if there's an easement somewhere that we've missed and find it in a year, we'll need to be able to transfer that easement. And that's really what this is about.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Councillor Danch.
I just had one question for Mr. Sinnes there. Took a drive down through the marina and whatnot. I noticed the public launch isn't in place as yet. Any idea when? A couple of guys are, they're going in on one side, getting blown all over. It's been a great spring, and they'd really like to see that public launch up and going.
Mr. Sinnes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I know that they've been working on it. They've had a few other issues that have come up, but I'll check tomorrow and see where it's at, and I'll let Councillor know.
Thank you. Any further new business? Dan, I just had a quick question for you. We received a report at the region through planning with respect to the census 2011 population, households, and dwelling information. And they made when I looked at the chart here, it says that the change between 2006 and 2011, Port Colborne had the highest change in terms of households or dwellings by municipality. I think we had 1564. The next closest one to us was 1419 by the city of St. Catharines. They made the comment in here that the data shows the largest increase in the number of dwelling units between 2006 and 2011 was in the city of Port Colborne. And this is the part that struck me. But this must be noted with caution, as the 2011 census appears to be including some dwelling units that were not counted in 2006 for Port Colborne. And this is a result of counting the resort dwellings in Sherkston Shores. So I guess they didn't count them in 2006, but they did in 2011. Do you know a way we can check on that?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. What we can do is we can actually make a contact with the census and find out how they came up with that calculation, and I can report back to you and to council once we get the information we need.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But nevertheless, great news, having the largest increase in the region. So, as Councillor Barrick said, that's something we'll be discussing at Queen's Park this upcoming Queen's Park week. What Bob's talking about, just for information, FYI guys, is that obviously, the higher assessment we have, the less UMF grant we have. One of the things that we discussed with planning is when you look at, for example, the incentives, the packaging of incentives that we're putting forward, as we put incentives forward, especially tax increment financing incentives, so we defer payment of taxes as an incentive to build here. But because of the new assessment growth, we get less in our Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund grant, which kind of is a double hit for us because we're deferring tax revenue, but we're also getting less grant due to the fact that we have more assessment. So what we're going to do down in Niagara Week is approach the Minister of Finance and ask the Minister if, in fact, under the Places to Grow Act, they can defer that growth until the TIF has completed its or gone through its cycle, so that therefore we don't get a double hit. So it's financial mumbo jumbo, but it's nevertheless it impacts us, and we have to be very cognizant of that because of course the taxpayer is ultimately the one that gets impacted, and we don't want that under our affordability strategy. With no further councillors' items, staff, any updates, anything? We're good? Okay, let's move on to the adoption of the minutes. We have the minutes of the 8th meeting special of Committee of the Whole, Service Audit Advisory Committee meeting, dated March 19, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Steele, Danch, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. The minutes of the 9th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, dated March 26, 2012. Mover and seconder, Councillor Kenny, Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. We'll now go to the items requiring a separate discussion. We'll start off with item 3. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Department of Planning and Development Report Number 2012-25, Subject Noise Variance Fee Update, be approved, recommending that bylaw 4588/119/04, being a bylaw to regulate noise, be amended by deleting the $450 fee established in Schedule 5 and replacing it with a $300 non-refundable.
Thank you, Councillor. Have a seconder to that, please. Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you once again, Your Worship. After reading this report, it's page 2 of the report that's in our council package, there was an option 3 listed there in regards to that, and that council would establish that the $300 fee be submitted by all applicants, and that if no complaints, violations, or enforcement was required to alleviate an issue, that the applicant would be allowed to request further noise exemptions, and that $150 would be refunded. I prefer this option 3, in the report, rather than the other one. This way, it's kind of an incentive for them to keep things under control. They know that if Niagara Regional Police don't have to be called in, or anybody else, that it's an incentive for them to keep things, I guess, more contained. And so I would like us to consider option 3 instead of the option listed in this of a $300 non-refundable. Just waiting for others to comment on that. Thanks.
Thank you, councillors, or Councillor. Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I definitely, if we're going to go to any options, option 3 is one that I would definitely follow through. But my concern in all of this is your non-profit organizations. Like every kid in our community, the last time we discussed it, I mentioned that. Any money they have to put out comes out of what the children get when they do an activity. All the money they have goes to the kids. The one they do in August goes directly. Last year they gave over 60 pairs of shoes to children who needed it. If they have to put out any money, that technically is $300, even $150. You're talking 6 pairs of shoes. So that's 6 children that will not get the shoes that they would normally have gotten. Okay, I'm not sure if it's going to be shoes this year, but that's just an example. So what do we do for them? And we haven't, I thought we had made it clear that that's something we were going to deal with. This report does not deal with any of that. So I'm disappointed in the report. I mean, there are some corrections that were being made, and that's fine. But what do we do with an organization like that? And we have quite a few organizations that do this for children. What do we do for them? And I don't think this goes far enough.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you just to Councillor Kenny. Councillor Kenny, with regards to the refund, is it to the nonprofit or those type of organizations within the city? You know, whether it be a Lions Club or minor baseball, minor soccer?
I believe it's
Community group or-
any group.
Hold on.
No, but
Let's see it.
in reality, because option 3 really says that if no complaints, violations, or enforcement was required to alleviate the issue, the applicant, it doesn't say which applicant. So if it's a business doing this, I don't think that the taxpayer should be funding or subsidizing that portion. Or if it's a large event that brings in tens of thousands of dollars, I think they can afford a $300 fee, which is the cost our staff, and speaking with Mr. Aquilina, is the true cost for us to do this. I have no problem with our community groups, but I think there has to be a line drawn with who may get it back and who may not get it back. That's the only concern I have. I have no problem in giving the $150 back, but to me, it should be one of our community groups, not just to any Joe that comes along.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kenny?
Well, I certainly would agree with that, but again, as Councillor Doucette said, we still haven't addressed these, the not-for-profit groups. I don't know if we should ask for this report to be sent back and that be addressed in our next report, at our next council meeting, so that can be made, because I agree with Councillor Doucette. When this came forward is because a non-for-profit group came forward and said they couldn't afford it. And so maybe we should ask it to be specific to that request that we received. And maybe this report that we received today doesn't go far enough, because I agree that is a concern to myself as well, and as well with what Councillor Steele said, that if it's a business or another group that's making all kinds of money on the event, then they should pay that $300 fee and it should not be refundable. So I don't know how we do that without making a whole new report that, first of all, addresses the non-for-profit groups. Secondly, that addresses the ones that Councillor Steele mentioned, and so that we have it separated and we know where we're going. I think I would ask that this be deferred till next council meeting.
Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, we can receive direction from council. Right now, this is $300 non-refundable. If you wish to provide direction at this point and say the bylaw reflect that registered charitable organizations not be charged, you could provide that direction tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Howe.
We know where you want to go with it, and we can do that. And now, with respect to option 3, if you want to do more of that, we could bring back a list of the kinds of applicants. I don't know if you want to be, or everybody could apply to get $150 back, or that we would need a little more direction from you. But insofar as registered non-profit or charitable organizations, simple direction will work.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. If I may add a few comments, and I think council has to appreciate and respect what staff has brought back, simply because they're abiding by the taxpayer affordability strategy that you've established. And that strategy is to alleviate the pressure put on the taxpayer by moving more toward user fees, in terms of ensuring that if you use it, you pay for it, not to be subsidized by the taxpayer. And I think they've done that here in the past report as well as this report. If members of council want to take it a step further, then by all means, as Mr. Howard just alluded to, then let's give some direction and set that policy as per your wishes. I'm hearing from Councillor Kenny as it relates to the actual amount of the fine. I'm hearing from Councillor Doucette with respect to the not-for-profits. Then what I would recommend you do is to step forward with those recommendations to put within this report. So you have 3 options there. And if Councillor Kenny, if you're asking for an option to consider not-for-profit or a $300 fee and $150 to be refunded based on no problems, then what I would suggest is you put that forward as an amendment, as well as Councillor Doucette with the not-for-profits to put that forward as an amendment. To make it a bit cleaner, I can feel the clerk looking at me right now. Maybe what we'll do is we'll vote on this first. Okay, and then you can come forward with that motion and that amendment to her motion. So defeat this first. That way it's cleaner. Okay. Go ahead.
Actually, when I'm thinking of it now, I kind of agree with what Councillor Steele said, that the $300 fee, non-refundable, because it is staff time and it doesn't make it cleaner, and just add to this amendment that non-for-profit groups don't pay. Right? Because
Well,
we don't.
I think, Councillor, just to clarify.
But I know,
Councillor,
yeah.
just to clarify, I think the recommendation doesn't give a refund if there's no problems. So what you're adding is you're adding the amendment that it is refundable if there's no problems. And I'm hearing from Councillor Doucette, I'm just trying to get to the point, get to the crux of it here.
Okay.
I'm hearing from Councillor Doucette that he also wants to add it to not-for-profits.
Okay, I'd like to hear from Mr. Aquilina, please. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Aquilina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some clarification, if the council's pleasure is to have non-for-profits or charitable organizations, we should really define that, because some groups may not be registrable. And what is non-for-profit? Because some of the requests that we dealt with last year are neither of those. So council needs to set us some guidance and direction as to what you really want to exempt.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Councillor Kenny?
I don't know if our young group that we have on the east side is a registered not-for-profit, is it? Our kids in our community? That's who brought that up. That's who actually how this all started from was.
Every kid in our community is run by two organizations. One primarily is Safe Communities.
Yeah.
And the other organization that helps out is Community Living. As well as we have other groups. So that can be considered as a not-for-profit and/or a charitable organization.
But I think that's what Mr. Aquilina wants. Should we just consider it registered, not-for-profit organizations are not going to pay that fee? And I might just go with the recommendation now that the $300 fee that we have on here be used except, and non-refundable, nothing non-refundable, except for these groups. I don't know how we get around this group that's not registered, because as Councillor Doucette pointed out, that money went right back to the kids in our community. And that's what we're always talking about. We're always talking about the youth in our community and what we can do for them. And that's a group that's been established. And how do we differentiate? Because they're not a registered charitable organization, and yet they certainly deserve the consideration of no fee. So how do we do that, sir? If you have a magic way to do that, I'm happy with this now. I'm happy with this fee.
I do, but it's not magic. Most organizations that, as I said earlier, with every kid in our community, most organizations that do put on these events do have a sponsor or do have a partner. And if they don't, they'll find one. This isn't the first time that, or I'll use the word events, are placed in this circumstance, whereby they have to find a sponsoring organization because they're not technically a not-for-profit or a charity. So, and with every kid in our community, they do that. They work with Safe Communities, which is a not-for-profit, and they work with Community Living, which is a not-for-profit. So if you want, Councillor, you may want to add in there, in your recommendation, that it be a registered not-for-profit or charitable organization.
Yeah.
And if they're not, then they would have to find somebody to partner with so they can be.
So to this recommendation, then, that's what I will add. Is that enough direction, Mr. Aquilina, that a registered is that very good? That's
Okay.
what I'll add then to this recommendation, adding that to this one that's here, already here before us, and I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we'll take that as an amendment, because it does seem quite friendly. But I also want to ask the presenter, is there an intent also to have a refund if there's no problems, as is outlined in option 3? That's not your intent?
Originally.
Originally it was.
Originally.
It's not now.
But now that I've heard other councilors' input, I think that the 300 is, we have to allow for staff time, as Mr. Aquilina always tells us, that nothing comes for free, and it shouldn't be on the taxpayers to pay for that. So I'll leave that recommendation that's before us, just adding the charitable.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Doucette? Are there any questions or comments to the amendment? Councillor Steele?
So So I agree with what you said earlier, defeat this and bring a new motion forward, but however, I'll work with the guys here. Just to be clear then, Councillor, through you, your worship, to Councillor Kenny, so you're going to accept the staff's recommendation with an amendment that states, because there's two differences here. There's a not-for-profit incorporation, which I know of because Port Colborne Minor Hockey is not-for-profit incorporated. Then there's registered charitable organizations which can issue tax receipts. Port Colborne Minor Hockey can't, but something like Port Cares or Community Living can because of the way they're structured. So I just want to make sure that those are the two organizations you're looking at, or an overseer of a group that comes forward.
Which would
So
be
if
a
they have a sponsor.
not-for-profit
Yeah, so if they're under the umbrella of Community Living or whoever, or Port Colborne Minor Hockey or soccer or whoever. I understand that. So what you're saying then in your second portion is that the $300 is charged, and then as the recommendation states, or one of the recommendations that was brought forward by staff states that if nothing happens, they would receive 50% back, which is $150. So there is still a fee going to staff time of $150. Is that what you're putting forward?
Councillor? Councillor, clarification?
No. Originally, I was going to do that. But then after I heard from both you and Councillor Doucette on the item, I changed my mind to leave the recommendation as is. Adding the not-for-profit organization.
Councillor Steele?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Councillor Kenny, because my original comment was that I was in favor of option 3, that the $150 would remain for staff time and $150 would go back to the organization. I don't think it should be free. We are trying to control our costs and our budgets and everything else, so I believe that's more than fair for these type of events. That there is staff time in doing this, and that we have to pay at least a portion of it. I have no problem with that. That it be a 50-50 offset because most of these are youth-oriented. So I would be willing to accept that, but I won't vote for a 100% refund.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Doucette?
Okay. I'm trying to figure out here, and I think I've got it down, but I'm not sure, so tell me if I'm right. Essentially, what Councillor Kenny is saying is, we'll charge anyone who isn't a non-for-profit or a charitable organization $300, and we keep the $300. That's what we're saying here. If you're a charitable organization or a non-for-profit, then you would not be charged the $300, and you would move on to giving this back out to the organization that you usually do it with, the youth and the young. That's the way I read what she is indicating. Councillor Steele, maybe he can clarify it for me. He's indicating he would like to have them be charged $150 or $300 and they get $150 back. I'm not sure which one that is for everyone, including charitable organizations, but because they're charitable organizations and non-for-profit, they would get $150 back. Everyone else would not. I believe that's where he's coming from. Okay? So I agree with Councillor Kenny. I think $300 for anybody that's making money. Everyone else that is a charitable organization, non-for-profit organization, we should continue with the practice we've had in the past, which is they can apply, we give it to them, and they move on, because that goes back, right back into the community. If the money didn't go back into the community, if we're going to take $150 off, and I understand what you mean by the staff, okay? That means that that organization, those young people, are going to lose out. Someone is going to lose out, okay? I can handle adults losing out because that's just the way it is, and adults have to learn to be adults. But a little 10-year-old or 6-year-old or 7-year-old, that's a different story. And this is where a lot of this money goes to. And with that, I would like to continue the same practice we've had in the past. Yes, it does cost the city a little bit, but in the city's case, that $150 is their donation to the organization, which is what they do anyway most of the time. There is some kind of donation that the city does wind up helping out with. This is their donation. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd like to see that. I agree with
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments to the motion? To the motion, your pleasure. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So back to the main motion, members. As amended, are there any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Main motion as amended. So your motion, as you put forward, but also with your amendment attached to it. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We're now going to move on to item 5. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's Department of Engineering and Operations Division's report number 2012-14, subject implementation of backflow prevention program for drinking water protection be approved, recommending A, that the Council of the City of Port Colborne receive the attached report and provide policy support for the creation and implementation of a backflow prevention program by directing staff to assemble a backflow committee, and that council appoint at least one member of council to sit on this committee. B, that council direct the backflow committee to report back to council on the progress of the program on a regular basis, ensuring that updates and program are completed and implemented before the end of this term of council.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Danch. Let's start off with the presentation, guys. The floor is all yours. Darlene, welcome. Good to go.
Well, good evening, Mayor, members of council, and staff, and members of the public. I'm co-presenting this evening with Addison Veers. He is a Niagara College student doing an internship with the city since January. He's in the environmental resource management program, and as I say, he's been here every Friday since the middle of January, helping me research backflow prevention and programs at other municipalities, and is here to explain to council this evening why we should have a program here in the city. So I'll start off, and then I'll let Addison take it from here. So why do we need to implement a backflow prevention program? It's not a legal requirement to have a backflow prevention program at this point. However, the standard of care clause, which I know I've told council about before in the past, comes into effect on December 31st of this year. And basically in that standard of care clause, it does state that owners shall exercise a level of care, diligence, and skill that a reasonably prudent person would be expected to exercise. Act honestly, competently, and with integrity to ensure the safety of the users of the municipal drinking water system. Additionally, during our annual drinking water system inspections performed by the Ministry of the Environment, it has been recommended by the Ministry as a best practice for us to implement a backflow prevention program. Also, when Council endorsed our operational plan for the quality management system last year, actually in 2009 when we first put our program in place, you were committing to our quality policy, which is clean. And we say that the City of Port Colborne is committed to clean drinking water. C is our consistent compliance with legislation. L is listening and communicating with the public regarding drinking water. Establishing a quality management system that's always improving. Allowing only the safest water to reach your tap, which is where our backflow comes into place. And recognizing that water is a necessity of life and needs to be of the highest quality. So without a backflow prevention program in place currently, the drinking water for over the 6,000 households, businesses, industries here in Port Colborne is at a potential risk for contamination. Now, it is interesting to note that in new construction under the Ontario Building Code, certain sectors, based on what they're doing on the site, are required to have a backflow prevention device installed, and that is done through our chief building official right now under the building code. There is no retrofit requirement, however, in the building code. So there's no requirement for these devices to be tested, no requirement for them to be inspected, or even for them to be maintained. So you could have an industry out there that has had a backflow device in place for 10 years, and we don't know if it still works. There's no legal requirement to have them tested. If we had a backflow prevention program and bylaw in place, this would strengthen our existing water bylaw and enhance our compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act and with the Standard of Care Clause. It would help us identify any and all cross connections where potential contamination of potable water could occur. We would be able to maintain a database of qualified backflow device testers. Those are people that have taken actual courses to teach them how to test the backflow devices. Our city plumber actually is a certified backflow prevention tester. We'd be able to have a database of water users who have backflow prevention devices in place. We don't even know who has them out there right now. Again, no requirement to. And we'd actually get a survey of our cross connections completed by a licensed surveyor or a qualified person. So I will now pass it over to Addison, who will explain to you what backflow is and why we should have a program. And he's very nervous, just so you know. And I've told him all to be nice to you. So, and I'm here for moral support.
Thank you, Darlene.
Throw me under the bus right away, right?
We only have 2.5 million watching on TV right now.
Hello, Mom. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council, staff. Thank you, Darlene.
Don't forget to click.
I have to click that, yep. So my name is Addison. Just to correct you, I'm in the Environmental Management and Assessment graduate program at Niagara. So my 12 weeks here were spent on Fridays, and my project was to research and compile the preliminary data for backflow prevention program for the city. To begin, it's necessary for you guys to understand what backflow is, so you guys can understand the scope and the potential harm that not protecting against backflow can cause. So backflow, by definition, is an unintended reversal flow of potable drinking water. It's basically contaminants reversing flow into potable drinking water. It can affect a local premise or a building with the internal piping within the building just staying local, but it can also compromise the entire drinking water system. Backflow can happen in one of two ways, back siphoning or back pressure, and I'll go into the details of these two scenarios in the next couple slides. Backflow occurs due to the existence of a cross connection. Again, definition is a temporary or permanent connection between potable water source and a contamination source, or any potentially completed connection despite assumed flow direction. So when you think the water is going to flow this way and it's the only way it's going to flow out, a cross connection means it can flow the other way, and they're existed everywhere. I'll show you some examples of them. So some examples are commercial wash basins, restaurant dishwashers, ice machines, chemically assisted fire sprinkler systems that are hooked up to water and a chemical system. So that's a cross connection right there if a backflow flow event ever occurred. And the city plumber took me on a tour of the West Side Road hockey rink. I don't really know I don't know what the right name of it is, but we went there and
we call it the old arena.
The old arena. I got to play hockey there at lunch, so I can't complain. And so we did the tour of the place to see how backflow devices work, because there's a couple there for the boiler, and we just went around looking for cross connections just so he could go, there's a cross connection, there's a cross connection. And the one I found kind of interesting was the Zamboni filling. It's a big tub on the front of the Zamboni where the hood lifts up, and you fill it with a hose so it has the water to spread over the ice. And the hose takes about 15 minutes to fill the tub, and that's a cross connection. As soon as that water level reaches above that hose nozzle, if a backflow event occurred, anything that's in that water, that's in that Zamboni tub, is coming back into your drinking water for the people in the arena, kids, coaches, anyone using the water bottles there, and then also if it could go back into the drinking water system. I mean, Zamboni, bacteria, dirt, cleaning chemicals. It could be nothing, but it could be something. So this is the first method of which backflow can occur. It's called back siphoning or back siphonage. It is basically the reversal of water due to a reduced pressure. And like it shows on the diagram there, you see a water main break. So basically this water line draws in contamination from the mixing tub. So there'd be a chemical or industrial process where there's mixing here, and they have a city-fed water line where they use city water to mix. If a water main break happens, the reduced pressure in the water main would cause the chemicals to reverse flow, flowing from a high pressure to a lower pressure system. And without a backflow prevention device to stop that, to control that cross connection, you're going to have contamination in your water, and you're going to have contamination in the entire distribution system. So these can be caused by the interruption of a supply due to nearby firefighting, repairs, or, like it shows there, breaks in the water main. So the other scenario which would occur is back pressure, and this is the reversal of water flow due to higher pressure on site than the city input puts in. So the example here shows a premise of some sort with a boiler system that has a pump, and the water pressure in that system is 80 pounds. And the city supply coming in is 60 pounds. And there's this valve right here that controls that to make sure that water doesn't enter the city distribution system. If that single valve fails and there is no backflow prevention device, the chemicals that are in the boiler water are going to be pumped from higher pressure to a lower pressure into your drinking water system, contaminating the water. So some events of where this can occur is high pressure pumps on a thing, increase temperature increases in boilers, elevated tanks, so like a higher building to create vertical pressure, and other pressure producing systems. So during my research, I came across multiple Canadian examples of backflow events. The most notable from any jurisdiction that we looked at, it's the one that Grimsby uses as a keystone. This is what can happen. It's what Guelph uses. I think the town of Lincoln does it as well. They use the Stratford car wash as the main go-to example, and it was an incident where it was a back pressure event where the car wash owner had installed a high-pressure pump to use with as a rinse water, and there was soap detergent mixed in with that. There was the cross connection there where that water was compromised, so it was the rinse water, and the backflow event occurred by having a high-pressure pump, just like that previous back pressure diagram showed, where it pushed that soapy water into the distribution system, and residents were putting suds out of their taps, and the city had to go on a 7-day boil water alert and provide the residents with bottled water. So it's just an example that they go to. The owner of the car wash was fined $75,000 because he was found legally responsible for contaminating the water. When the Section 19 clause comes into effect, standard of care clause, that responsibility will also be passed on to the owners of the distribution system, and they would also be found liable for not having done anything to prevent that water from flowing into into their distribution system. So I'm just going to go through from my research, looking at the different jurisdictions and what a typical backflow prevention program looks like. So from the research that I've done with the City of Lincoln, Grimsby, St. Catharines, Hamilton, Guelph, they all basically have the same premise and the same scope of implementing a backflow prevention program. It's a proactive initiative to achieve and maintain a high standard of drinking water by limiting the potential for backflow contamination. It provides due diligence with regard to the standard of care clause. It says that we're doing everything we can to protect the water. And it's just, as Darlene said, it's the MOE's best practice. It's looked upon as like a proactive step to protecting the customers that are using the drinking water. So according to other jurisdictions in the literature of implementing a backflow prevention program, The basic breakdown of a backflow prevention program followed these steps, and therefore I was able to perform the preliminary hazard identification, the assessment of a backflow event listed in Port Colborne's industrial, commercial, and institutional buildings, so we call them ICIs. And the following two charts will go through that data and what I found. So this table represents a breakdown of the ICI properties throughout the city, which were gathered from water billing sources and just from street view and site visits. And it shows their preliminary hazard ranking. It should be noted again that these are raw estimations of affected ICI properties, which were visually assessed on current operations. So it was a drive-by going, that is a pizza place. And using the hazard ranking guide used by Grimsby and the other municipalities, this is the go-to hazard ranking guide. It's attached to the back of the report, and it just kind of says that, you know, a dentist is this hazard ranking as opposed to a pizza shop is this ranking. So the preliminary data shows approximately 400 ICI businesses in Port Colborne. Over 200 have been estimated at moderate level. Examples of these are auto dealerships, churches, restaurants, retail, offices. They pose a risk, but it's still a moderate risk. It would have to be site specific to pose that. You'd have to look a little more deeper into it. 70 are estimated at severe levels. These are examples of automotive repair, body shops, dentists, funeral homes, veterinary clinics. These industries and businesses use a higher risk chemicals for contamination. Their practices at their businesses tend to be a little more riskier. Again, you'd have to go in and look at specific cross connections to get a tighter grasp on it. 40 are estimated at moderate severe, and these differences are based on size of the facility, age, processes, site specific. Again, surgical dentists versus a non-surgical dentist, they use different processes and have different cross connection vulnerabilities. 64 are unknown, so basically these properties were either I couldn't find them. Being from Stony Creek, I got to know the city pretty well, but I still couldn't find these places. Or unknown site activities. You drive by some industrial places, it's not really clear what they're actually doing in the building, and I have to leave it as unknown as opposed to just slapping a ranking on it. And also 28 were observed as closed or for rent or under construction. So these properties are the future use is unknown. So I have to label as unknown again. Can't just label it. Again, these are preliminary results. This is just a different way of looking at the same data, just to provide a visual estimation of the distribution. So 50% most likely moderate, like I said, and this data can be used for, if council chooses to strike a committee to look at this, it'll provide a prioritizing basis for implementation, so they can go, let's take care of the severe ones first, let's take care of the moderates last, let's get these ones that we need to take care of right away. So concerns arise, well, at least for me, I mean, I didn't know anything about backflow going into this, and as I kind of went through it, the high uncertainty that's associated with the data, I mean, I can only gain so much from drive-bys and the limited time that I had to work on this. These closed or unknowns account for 20%, and that 20% could be 20% severe, could be 20% moderate. We just don't know yet, and that's what I think needs to be top priority for implementing a backflow program. This just goes through the major players that would be associated in implementing a backflow prevention program. You have the industrial, commercial, and institutional buildings. They generate the hazard within their facility, funeral home, with their embalming things, such like that. So I mean, they're creating the hazard. They play a part in controlling that hazard. The device installers are licensed contractors. They ensure the devices are installed correctly, properly functioning and maintained. Big part of it. And the City of Port Colborne, they're the owner and operator of the distribution system. So their overall responsibility is for the safety of the water provided to the customers, and this will be law with the standard of care implementation. This backflow prevention program right now is considered proactive. But so I looked at some other jurisdictions in the area just to kind of see what everyone else is doing regionally, and Grimsby, St. Catharines, Lincoln, Hamilton, they all have plans in place. They're all pretty successful. I used a lot of the data from Lincoln and Grimsby. They have a step-by-step process on what needs to be done, responsibilities for each person, whether they be an installer, city themselves, and the homeowner. The only difference that I can just point out real quick is the self-assessment that Hamilton has done. I have a family member in the plumbing industry that works for Hamilton Halton region, and he says that when they do a licensed surveyor cross-connection survey, it's a licensed plumber that goes into the property and goes, there's a cross-connection, there's a cross-connection, here's the best way to deal with that cross-connection. The self-assessed method that Hamilton's chosen to employ is a property owner is given a sheet of paper to go find your own cross-connections, you mail us what you think you have, and we'll have a guy come in and install a cross-connection. They're finding it a little difficult with time and money because my family member will go see, well, you missed this cross connection, then you got to go back and it costs more money, and there's the communication barrier there that people are getting confused about. So that was just the only minor bump that I found when I was researching the different municipalities. And this is the pros and cons chart. It's pretty self-explanatory if you want to read through it. The pros outweigh the cons. I mean, it's the standard of care. It's drinking water safety for the people that are using the drinking water. It's for yourselves, for liability issues, and from a student not knowing anything about this, if I was relying on drinking water from my hometown, I would hope they were doing everything they could, but I think a backflow prevention program it's a good step forward for protecting the drinking water supply in Port Colborne. I think it's over to Darlene again. Thank you, guys. And thank you for letting me be a student intern at City of Port Colborne.
Good. Okay, thank you, Addison. He did a lot of work and a lot of research in that I wasn't able to dedicate a lot of time to, so it was a very big help. So our recommendations that came out of Addison's research in our report was to update the water bylaw. Our existing water bylaw was enacted long before the Safe Drinking Water Act came into effect in 2002, long before Walkerton happened in 2000, and long before the current municipal drinking water licensing program came into place. So it doesn't really reflect the current regulatory requirements. A lot of regulations have changed. There's a requirement to have a licensed operator now that wasn't addressed in the previous legislation. Backflow prevention is again not a legal requirement, but standard of care, as I know we keep telling you about. It would be a proactive thing to do. We need to make the language consistent with the current regulations. I know there has been confusion. I believe our current bylaw refers to a water pipe or a water service, but the way the regulations are, they talk about a service connection versus a service pipe. One side's the homeowners, one side's the cities. It would just help make it consistent with the current regulations. And there are other regulatory or license requirements in the existing license that are not addressed in the current bylaw. So to accomplish this, we recommend assembling a backflow committee. And that committee within this term of council, the committee will, at council's direction, review the existing water bylaw and recommend changes, work towards creating a backflow prevention program. Again, as Addison has indicated, there are a lot of steps that other municipalities have taken. There's different approaches everybody has. So we would include public consultation because understanding this will have a financial impact on the ICI customers. We do need to have consultation on what their concerns are and also communicate public education on what the concerns are from our perspective as well. We also need to determine how the program could be implemented and how it could be staffed. Again, lots of different angles out there, lots of different approaches. We can do a made in Port Colborne way to tackle this, and also cost recovery mechanisms. Most of the municipalities that do this, it is operated on a fee basis, and that is how they recoup their costs. The committee can provide regular progress updates to council, so you can keep track of where we're going, and the committee would ultimately recommend the preferred approach to implementation and the associated costs of the program. Addison, again, abused his family connection and got some costs for us from his plumber cousin plumber, and also got information from the town of Lincoln and came up with some estimated costs for us. Again, the majority of our users are 3/4 inch services, and that affects which size of backflow prevention device they would need, and that is, of course, the cheapest device at this point. And the installation, again, is very basic with a smaller service. So the estimated cost for a 2-inch, 3/4 inch service is about $700 to $1,400 upfront, with about $200 a year, again, depending on fees for permits, monitoring, testing. Larger users, we have about 42 in the system that have greater than a 4-inch service. The devices are more costly. Again, you'd usually have a bigger service, usually a more severe or higher risk activity occurring as well. And the devices are about $3,500. And then the installation fee is, of course, based on where it's going to be put. It's very site specific on their current configurations. So, and this is something that the committee would flush out. They would do more in-depth research and figure out exactly who it's going to affect and how much. So in summary, the development and implementation of a backflow prevention program is definitely a proactive initiative, and it will ensure that the safety of the drinking water is maintained in the city by ensuring that the potential for backflow contamination to occur has been significantly reduced, and also ensures that the city remains compliant with the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Standard of Care Clause. So if you have any questions for myself or Addison, we are ready.
Thank you, Darlene, and thank you, Addison. Well done. Those 2.5 million people are going to be fans now. Councillor Kenny.
Well, thank you, Addison, for coming to our community and doing this research for us and helping Darlene out. Just a question, since it's not a legal requirement, how are we going to get participation from, you mentioned some high risk, both in your presentation tonight. So how do you get participation, especially since there's going to be a cost borne solely by that business or that company? So how do you get them to participate? I know this is going to be part and parcel of our Safe Drinking Water Act, which has to be implemented by this year, right? December this year. So just how do you get participation, I guess?
Darlene.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In talking with other municipalities, basically if council passes a bylaw and says that they are going to do it, then they have to comply. Town of Grimsby has had really good success with their program, almost 100% compliance, and I do sit on a regional group with my colleague from Grimsby, and I can definitely get some tips and tricks from Grimsby and see how they got such good compliance. I believe also that public education is a big component, like educating the industries as to what the risk of their process could have to the drinking water system. So I think that, yeah. I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. There has been some resistance to it at municipalities as well. And I know Barrie, for instance, their bylaw was challenged, but City of Barrie did take the stance that they were not going to be liable for, they themselves would not be liable for an impact on the drinking water system that could be controlled. So, and I have been in communication with them as well to kind of see how they've managed to do it as well. So I hope that answers your question.
I think what has to be recognized here as well, councillors, is that not only is the corporation taking on a liability or exposing itself to liability, but you as operators of the actual utility are also taking personal liability upon yourselves as 8 members of council, 9 including myself. So it goes well beyond the traditional, yes, and of course the director as well. So sorry, Ron. You don't look in stripes yet. So that due diligence is a matter of our responsibility. Addison, go ahead.
May I add something? When you said through you, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
For incentivizing like a big corporation or like an industrial component that would to say how do they get them to do it proactively? That Stratford Car Wash had to pay $75,000 in a fine because they were responsible for contaminating the water. If you just, like Darlene said, public education, well, how about industrial education, where we go, money talks to a bigger organization. If you went, you know, you don't have to pay $75,000 if you pay, you know, $1,400 up front. You could talk to them, maybe persuade someone to look into it that way. But thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments, members? With none, any questions or comments to staff? Does staff have any further comments? Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might just add, as the managers and owners of this system, we really strongly recommend council support this. Even though it's not legislated, there's some real-life examples. Darlene and Addison have pointed out a few. It kind of makes me think of the spill we had in the canal a couple of years ago. We had a real-life scenario here when the water plant shut down for 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12 hours. We were really at the verge of facing a sort of a siphonage situation with our water distribution system during that real-life spill situation. And without this type of prevention program in place, that could have been a real disaster. And so we'd like to see this implemented, at least with the backflow program and a committee formed. We're showing our due diligence in operating and managing this system. So we strongly recommend we go forward to this and hopefully have a good outcome on it.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Mr. Howe?
Your worship, if council establishes a committee, perhaps maybe may enlist the services of the insurance underwriters. I'm sure if there's a backflow preventer in any kind of industry that really gets rid of that potential liability, there may be some insurance breaks, at least sufficient to perhaps pay for the installation of it. So the underwriters should be enlisted in the review of the program to see if there's an opportunity here to save them some insurance, which will cover the cost of the installations.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. It's a good point. With no further questions or comments, members, I'm going to allow the presenters to sit down. And great job, Darlene and Addison. Wonderful job. Now, you've been here for about 12 weeks now? Yeah. 12 weeks. So just on Fridays. Mm-hmm. So 12 weeks working with these guys, you got 4 years of experience now. Just kidding, guys. No, well done. And Addison did great. You did great, and hopefully the experience here in the city of Port Colborne has given you a lot of experience that you can take maybe back here or at least to another municipality.
Much better than Hamilton.
Yeah. Great job. Wonderful job. Thanks, Darlene. Members of council, your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you, members. I think we should wait. We only have 4 here tonight. But then again, we can always appoint the 4 that aren't here. Welcome back. Members, we did vote on the remainder of the items, but I do want to take this opportunity to allow Stephen Thompson, our Director of Economic Development, to come on up and present report number 6. Although it wasn't pulled, I wanted to give him the opportunity because it is something that I'll be looking for direction for. Having not pulled it and voted on it already, I have the direction. But I wanted to give Stephen the opportunity to articulate why he made the recommendation with respect to the signage in the city. So, Stephen, welcome. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I keep finding myself ducking under these screens. I'm not sure if I need to or not, but good. Might knock some sense into me otherwise. Mr. Mayor, through you, thank you for the opportunity to present the report this evening. This report is the culmination of frankly, a few too many years of work. This was a project that was identified as a need almost 5 years ago by a community exchange program that we did with the town of Midland. Actually, the project was initiated even before I started with the city of Port Colborne. That project involved a group from Midland coming down to Port Colborne to evaluate our community. We reciprocated by going up to the town of Midland to evaluate their community. One of the top 5 issues which the town of Midland flagged as an issue here in Port Colborne, and the one that we as a municipality could directly act upon, was tourism signage. As a result of that, 4 grant applications were submitted. We were successful on 3 of those grant applications and were able to have the staff resources for a period of 12 months. That began 36 months ago and lasted up until 24 months ago when we had those resources to be able to investigate best practices in terms of tourism signage, not just in Niagara region, not just in Ontario, but beyond. In fact, every member of staff and all their friends have been instructed anytime you go somewhere, regardless of where it is, take your camera, take a picture of a tourism sign so that we can learn from the experience. From the project, we discovered that lots of tourism signs that were erected more than 10 years ago have fallen down, become vandalized, need repair, that sort of work. We also found that, as one councillor just correctly mentioned, the font size on those signs is fairly small. There was obviously a desire to incorporate a lot of attractions onto not too much metal. And as a result, the font size is fairly small. So with both prototypes that are actually in front of me this evening, the font size is more than doubled in terms of height. Where we've been over the past 2 years is working with the region, trying to work with the region. Certainly a number of meetings, a number of dialogues with the region, both during the 12-month project, which wrapped up 24 months ago, and over the past 24 months as well. The challenge, the opportunity, the challenge we have here is that of our approximately 55 sign locations in Port Colborne, half are on regional roads. Therefore, the region has final say in terms of what goes up on their roads. The direction that regional staff received just about that 4 years ago happened to be that they wanted to follow a standard design. While the region does not have a bylaw yet that requires a standard design, this sign, I don't know if every member of council can see it, this sign design is the standard design that the region is advocating for, which is a pretty standard design on highways throughout Ontario. The consideration, the concern with that is that we're not dealing with highways. We're dealing with urban areas. We're dealing with people's front lawns that this will be going on, businesses that signage will be going on, Main Street that the city and others just invested millions of dollars in will be home to many, many of these sign locations. And the concern is with the overall size of the proposed sign, which includes an icon, and the icons don't always make the most sense, but those are the symbols that are fairly standard. I see some members of council trying to see, so I'll do my best to make this a little bit more visible. So which means I can't use the microphone, but I'll do my best. What we've tried to do is find the best of both worlds in terms of sign design. So we've maintained the color that the region has been asking for. Must be white letters, blue background, and we've maintained the font size. We've maintained the location of the arrows, and we've essentially maintained the entire design. We've been able to reduce the width of the sign from 48 inches to 39 inches by not having the symbol. Everything else is maintained. It's our understanding that it's going back to regional committee this month, a report that will be making a recommendation for the larger sign with the symbols. The recommendation in the report before council tonight was a recommendation to again ask the region to consider the modification that council considered 2 years ago, almost to the day, when I was in the council chamber with the same prototypes, which is for this design, which we think is a happy medium and something that hopefully will be of less concern to the businesses and the residents that may very well have a sign like this in front of their shop or their house.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Members of council, any questions or comments? Just one question, Stephen. So actually, all in all, the only difference is the icons, because I think the region has already agreed to allow for the upper part to be on there for different municipalities. As a matter of fact, they went as far as even putting the region of Niagara along the bottom, so that would be standardized throughout the entire region. The sign that they're recommending is, I believe, the same sign style as the Todd signs that are on provincial roads, provincial highways, right there. So that would actually be a Todd sign.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, so what we're seeing is we're not too far off. The only thing is the little emblems that, quite frankly, make no sense at all on the side there. That's basically the kicker.
Mr. Mayor, I do think that we are very close. There is only that one item that is currently an item of discussion with the region, and that's been the item of discussion for more than 12 months now with the region. The icon, the symbol, the issue with the symbol is it impacts the overall size. I believe on this sign example, because it doesn't have the icon, with this sign example, we're able to get 5 items on a sign which is almost a foot narrower and still have room for the top banner. So it really does impact the overall size. But yes, the item under discussion at this point really does come down to that symbol, but that symbol does have pretty significant impacts on overall size.
So the next question I would have, sorry, Councillor Kenny, just to that, the next question I would have is, I'm assuming that the reason for the icons or the symbols is to then use those symbols as trailblazers within the community. So it begs the question, or the obvious question is what then will be used for the trailblazers? So you come off the highway, the Todd signs is what got you there. You're now into the city, you see these signs, and now beyond these signs, when you're in the city, what trailblazers would then be used to get you to your final destination?
Mr. Mayor, the intent with the signage is to use this sign as a sign that would get you to the final destination. So as soon as you enter a regional road or a local road, you'd be looking for a sign that has this very consistent design. The number of items on the sign and therefore the overall height might be lessened as you get closer to your destination, because there might only be 1 or 2 items that need to be on the sign, for instance, when you get closer to the marina.
So what you're saying is that once you pass that sign, you make the left to go to Showboat Theatre, you're now on King Street. What you'll see is a smaller sign that simply says Showboat Theatre on it.
Correct, Mr. Mayor. You'd see another sign like this, which
obviously smaller.
Would have fewer items. Yeah,
Obviously
same width, same design, same
Same
logo
style.
at the top, same blue colors, same arrows, just like
But
the
not with an
regional ones.
icon, or not with a symbol. It would actually have Showboat Theatre.
Correct, Mr. Mayor. Not with the symbol. One of the challenges with the symbol, quite frankly, is what sign do you put for a sports complex? Under the guidelines, the traffic standards guidelines, a sports complex would be a letter A for attraction. And what would you put for something like Roselawn, which has the theater in it, which has office space in it, which has banquet facilities? It most likely would have an A as well. So the symbols, while they may work very well for a beach or for a boat ramp, I think most of us have seen those symbols and recognize those. That represents a very small portion of the attractions that we're trying to direct tourists to. What symbol do you put for a museum? What symbol do you put for a library, for example? And that's where the challenge seems to present itself a bit more. So we find the symbols to be a bit challenging, and certainly almost every other community that we've been to presumably has faced some of those same challenges. We've considered over 100 communities based on reaching out to those communities by email, by phone, by survey. One community out of those more than 100 is using this type of design, and that happens to be the city of Hamilton. Nowhere else in this region or anywhere else in the province that we've found is using these sorts of signs in their urban area.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny?
Thank you, Your Worship. That was my question exactly. As I get closer to my destination, what trailblazer or what marking is going to be? If I'm not familiar with the city at all, and I'm hunting for a Showboat Theatre, what would be my guide to get there if I was on King Street? If I was on Main Street and turned right onto King to go to, because I saw that arrow, what would I do after that? How would I find my way exactly to that destination?
Mr. Mayor, through you, the intent is that this would be the consistent design to get right to the destination. So you'd see signs like this in roughly 50 locations through the city of Port Colborne. approximately half would be on regional roads, just based on the traffic flow and the roads that people take. Usually, typically, you take the provincial road to get to the regional road, to get to the local road, to get to the destination.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, what I want to make one note is that the province has been extremely cooperative, understanding the difficulty with what we want to do and what regional staff don't want to do. And one of the major grants they have now for, it's almost now is going into the second year, they have deferred the grant, but we've got to put the sign up by, we got to put the signs up finished by the end of August. Failing that, we're going to lose a substantial grant, $15,000. So if Regional Council, Mr. Mayor, doesn't agree in policy to this sign and wants the one with all of the big letters and stuff on it, then the city's going to have to consider on Regional Road, we'll have to abide by Regional Council policy with the big signs. And again, I'm not so sure that the business industry is going to be happy with that big sign, especially on places like Main Street, things like that. It's going to be a difficult task. However, the city's going to want to, it will need to ensure, if you're going to have trail signs through the city, to put signs up. And while the recommendation here says to stick with a 39-inch and be reasonable and make some common sense out of what we want to put up, should Regional Council not approve a policy to permit a reduced sign like this within an urban area, we will be back to Council requesting that we proceed with the order and installation of the signs that are shown back behind, which are whatever the regional policy is.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. I appreciate your politeness. Members of Council, any further questions or comments? With none, great. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate your time this evening. I know you're feeling a bit under the weather. We actually have two folks that are feeling a bit under the weather tonight, Stephen and Ashley, so we're trying to get this meeting over with so they can get home and get some well-deserved sleep. Rest. So with that, members of Council, I'm going to move on to any notices of motion this evening. With no notices of motion, I have a motion to accept the motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Councillor Kenny. Councillor Steele, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to the council portion of our agenda this evening. We'll start off by allowing the clerk to introduce any addendum items.
Thank you. None this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Confirmation of the agenda. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Doucette. Excuse me. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? With none, move on to the adoption of the minutes. We do have 4 sets of minutes here. I'll do in block if you don't mind. We have the minutes of the 8th meeting special of Council, March 12, 2012. The minutes of the 10th meeting special of Council, March 19, 2012. The minutes of the 11th meeting special of Council, March 26, 2012. And the minutes of the 12th meeting regular of Council, March 26, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Danch. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Items requiring a separate discussion. Are there any? Mover and seconder for the items listed. Councillor Steele, Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll move on to proclamations, and I will be looking for a mover and seconder for these proclamations this evening. The first being that whereas in 2009, the City of Port Colborne was recognized by Fair Trade Canada as Ontario's first fair trade city, and whereas the City of Port Colborne has committed to serving fair trade tea, coffee, and sugar at its meetings and in its offices at City Hall, excluding special events. And whereas the City continues to encourage local businesses to carry fair trade certified products, and whereas the City continues to encourage local workplaces and community groups to use fair trade certified products in their facilities and at their events. Now therefore, I, Mayor Vance M. Badaway, do hereby proclaim and reconfirm the City of Port Colborne's commitment and support of fair trade, as well as continuing to satisfy the requirements of Fair Trade Canada to maintain the city's designation as a fair trade city. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Danch, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to the second proclamation, that whereas 12.5 million Canadian volunteers give their time to help others, contributing 2.1 billion volunteer hours per year. And whereas volunteers in Port Colborne mentor our children, feed our hungry, comfort our lonely, beautify our green spaces, and fundraise for our charitable organizations. And whereas Port Colborne's volunteers are young, older, families, workers, retirees, men and women of all ages and all backgrounds. And whereas the collective result of the work done by our city's volunteers is that Port Colborne is a more desirable place to live. And whereas organizations in Port Colborne that rely on volunteers include such fundamental organizations as Port Cares, the Port Colborne Public Library, the Port Colborne Historical Marine Museum, Port Colborne site of the Niagara Health System, the Niagara Regional Community Policing, Northland Point, Port Colborne firefighters, and various service organizations and sport clubs. And whereas volunteers play a critical role in communities of council, Canal Days, Flavors of Niagara, Sport Fest, and Circle Trek. Now therefore, I, Mayor Vance Badaway, Mayor of the City of Port Colborne, do hereby proclaim April 15th to April 21st, 2012 as National Volunteer Week here in the City of Port Colborne, and urge my fellow citizens, as well as members of council and staff, to recognize the crucial role played by volunteers within and throughout our community. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to the minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. I have 3 sets here. I'll do them in block if you don't mind. I have the Heritage Port Colborne meeting of February 8th, 2012. The Port Colborne Transit Advisory Committee meeting of January 18th, 2012. And the Canal Days Advisory Committee meeting of February 15th, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Steele. Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Are there any notices of motion this evening? No notices of motion. Madam Clerk, the introduction of the bylaws, please.
That the following bylaws be read a first, second, third time and finally passed. Bylaw 57763112 being a bylaw to appoint the named Blue Knight security employees as bylaw enforcement officers. Bylaw 57773212 being a bylaw to appoint members to the Port Colborne Public Library Board. And finally, bylaw 57783312 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a collective agreement between the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne and Local 2307 of the International Association of Firefighters.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Steele. Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Madam Clerk, the confirmatory bylaw, please.
That the following bylaw be read a first, second, third time, finally passed. Bylaw 57793412 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its meeting of April 10, 2012.
Thank you, Ashley. Members of council, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. I will now entertain a motion to go into closed session, and to go into closed session for a confidential memorandum from Dan Aquilina, Director of Planning and Development Services, dated April 3rd, 2012, regarding advocate environmental reports in respect of the community-based risk assessment pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting municipality or local board. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Danch, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Before I move into closed session, I do want to announce to the public that we do have an upcoming meeting of the Special Committee of the Whole, and this has to do with the Services Audit Advisory Committee meeting. And this is essentially auditing the services that we provide here in the City of Port Colborne and what to proceed with within next year's 2012-2013 budget That is Monday, April 16th, 2012, beginning at 6:30 PM here in the chamber. Following that, we have a meeting on Monday, April 23rd, 2012, that being a committee of the whole and council meeting, and once again here in the chamber, beginning at 6:30 PM. So with that, members, I would now like to move into closed session. And to all of you watching on COGECO as well as in the gallery, have a wonderful week.